Hello and welcome to video 17 of the Fearless Motivation by Mental Stamina video series. So yeah guys, you just saw me complete my last set of push-ups in my 1 year push-up challenge. So it is day 16 and I am now currently at 1777. So right now, I am in Lansbury Park, riding on the swings. I just think that's so dope because, I've got a very young spirit. And I'm still also trying to catch my breath after completing that last set, which is about 31. And I'm just but it's all about the mental acuity, which I've been enforcing all throughout this video series. So let me just clear my throat for a sec, and I'm just going to give you a quick visual of Lansbury Park, because I realized in video 8 I didn't really give you all that good, but if every day you're trying and making an honest effort, that's what life's all about. So here's the swings. I remember the swings when I was a kid, and I was just why don't I go on the swings? Because people get busy with shit and they just don't have time to enjoy shit. So here's the little playground that I was seeing there. Over there is the hockey rink, and over there is the pool, and then down there further we also have a soccer field. So that's a little bit about Lansbury Park. But anyways, let's get into video 17 of this Fearless Motivation by Mental Stamina video series. So when you turn 17, guys, you're technically an adult, but you have no authority, and you also don't have any direction, purpose, or passion. There are some people that are great from the start, like Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and Richard Branson, will say, just because they had a purpose and they knew exactly what they wanted to achieve, and they just always set deadlines for themselves. But everybody else, they fall into the trap that society has laid for them. That trap being is to get an education, then work an average job for 30 to 40 years, and then have 1 to 2 children, and then you retire, you die, and then you just pass this paradigm on to your kids for the next few years. And this myth has stood the test of time for over 100 years, guys. So since 1920, when the Industrial Revolution, owners of factories and warehouses would always say, hey, get an education and I'll pay you twice as much. And that has been the myth. That's the way you become successful. But I believe nowadays we're passing into a skills economy where it's so much more what you socially network and the skills you offer to employers. So yeah, when you fall in that myth, it's not a very a successful approach. You can rise above that approach, but it is a very tedious process. The more direct way to do it and to become a millionaire is to figure out the value you offer to others, get paid for it, and then structure a business around it. That is the purpose of this whole video series. I realize it's a bit rough, but hey, it's my first video series that I'm doing all by myself. So you always gotta have gratitude and graciousness for just being bold and getting out there and doing shit. Because that's me. Even with this coronavirus thing, it's just hey, if I die from it, I die. But I'm a cancer survivor and I consider myself Superman Go. And that's just me, because I am not going to stop. And until until I'm in the grave, I'm just going to live that full passionate life. But anyways, when you're constantly adding value to others, and my hope is to find a good mentor, provide some value to him, and then by the law of reciprocity, he will help me out with my business. And that's what you got to do, is just be fearless and always want to get those connections out there. So I'm gonna shortly transition into the various living accommodations I've lived in the years before I came to my current city and abode. But my thing is that I want to get out there is that I just want to say I won't stop, and it's just I made all these different living accommodations to spread my wings, take actions, and never give up. So back to my story, guys. From about 2010 to about 2013, I made about 5, we'll say, different living accommodations. So my parents lived out in a Buckhorn. So in that sense, it was very difficult to get into town because they're a 20-minute drive, and it would be over 3 hours if you were to walk into town, or take a taxi would have been $50. So basically I relied on them for everything. So what ended up happening was that my brother lived in town in a small house, and I got to live with him for about 6 months. This was not an ideal setup, just because he was kind of a mean brother, and I've still got issues to this day to him as a result. But let's get into the positive notes. So living in this house, I was about a 20-minute walk from the downtown sprawl of Peterborough and the main street of George Street. So on George Street, I'd often go out to the bars alone, or stag, because I always consider myself a lone wolf. And part of the reason I also howl during all this. So, ow! And you just gotta have that confidence. So one night when I went out, I saw the Friars of Tau Kappa Epsilon doing push-ups in a bar. Just what I did to start this video. I made a witty comment, and I got to rush their fraternity. So when I rushed the fraternity, I was not successful the very first time, but I stuck my head down, and I just I dedicated myself to excellence and just always being the best kind of person that I could be, because I knew I was destined to join this organization. So I will be focusing a chapter of 10 videos later on in this video series, but I always like to just apply a bit of foreground to each chapter that I will be introducing. So back to my accommodation story. After I got my job at the Ministry of Natural Resources, I got the chance to move out of my brother's place and to a small house that was it was the basement of another lady's house. And once again, this was not an ideal accommodation, but it was all mine, and yeah, and that's what I really appreciated about it. So I got to stay in this place for about 6 months. And yeah, it was a good place, but it was overpriced and it was too small. And like I said, it was a bad landlord. But anyways, after I moved out of this place, I moved into another small house about 2-3 minutes, so actually walking distance away. And it was recommended by a frater of the Tau Kappa Epsilon fraternity who did quite well with the women, but yeah, he was a bit greasy. So unfortunately, I only stayed about 3 months in this location, just because of when the power went out and bad landlord, and then the other guy who recommended, he kind of moved out. It just got weird there, so it was just time to move out and move back to the parents' house yet again. So, but I actually got an opportunity once again to study custom border services at Fleming College. And I've already talked to you guys about this, but I also like studying body language and just how logistics are, getting things from the point of origin to the point of consumption. So I like talking about that quite in depth, because I find everything is based on this one principle. But anyways, well, because I got to study at Fleming College, I got to join TKE once again. So also, for my accommodation story, I got to actually move out from my parents once again and stay in the basement of a married couple's house with some actually decent roommates. So it was quite an experience there. So I got to stay in this accommodation for about 1 year until I finished college, and I got to start an internship in Burlington. This was my first chance to work in an actual customs brokerage, and this was my chance to like make it shine for 7 weeks. It was unfortunate that I did not get a job out of this, but I still remember to this day that I did an audit for my manager, and I got out of 480 fields, I didn't miss a single one. And that was just my perfection principle and how I always wanted to go forward and always have put out the best content possible. Because like he said, out of every field, Rob, you ask questions and you always look for inconsistencies. So when I was not working in Burlington, I did join Good Life Fitness for the very first time in 2013, I believe. Yeah, 2013. And that's where I first became, I'd like to think a good fitness guy, because I get there as soon as possible, or I'd bike or I'd walk there, because like fitness is one of the biggest things and part of the purpose I am doing this video series. So also, my accommodations in Burlington, once again, they were not ideal. The place I was actually living in was a bit of a sty, but I don't focus on negativity. So after I finished my internship, I got to move back home with my parents yet again. And let me tell you guys, when you live at home with your parents at the age of 30, it is not ideal. But I only ended up staying there for 6 months until I moved to my new abode and my current city, which I'm currently sitting in right now. So I will talk about that in video 18. Until then, guys, Kaizen, ow!